Hey Darius.
Hey,
Uh,
Paul as well.
I found you. I found some on Meetup. So
okay.
before I found some other, but it looked quite scammy. All the pictures were different on all the different groups. Join a
Okay.
WhatsApp group, and after, yeah, don't know. So
Okay.
after
Well,
that, I found you. So
the good news is this is a genuine group. We really do exist.
great.
Yeah, and I'll throw in the rider straight away because we record these, we publish these on YouTube and that kind of thing. Anyway, is that anything we talk about is not going to be financial advice, legal advice, taxation advice, or even criminal advice. 'Cause, we sometimes end up talking about things like money laundering and that. And so I always have to be careful. Sometimes when I explain methods of money laundering, that is not me providing recommendations on how to do it. It's just a part of one of the sectors I work in sometimes. So what brings you along then, Darius? A particular area of interest?
I studied. I'm studying business economics. So and also I invested in crypto like 1 year ago. So
Okay.
that's when I started. And yeah, so that's my journey. Also invested quite a lot of different crypto assets, and
Okay.
also have my group. Also, they get also quite into detail, sometimes more, sometimes less, and but
Hmm.
more on the investing side. So not fully in technical, more in like charting often.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So when we set this group up a few years ago, and James, I think you actually used to come along to some of the original meetings when we actually physically held them. And the whole idea was
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
at
Yeah.
that stage, I think it must have been 8 years ago or something probably
Mm,
now.
mm.
That was when people were kind of getting into crypto, didn't quite understand it. My background is a bit more technical in terms of the technology behind cryptocurrencies. So things like blockchain, distributed ledger technology, cryptography, that kind of thing. And we set the group up just to learn and share with each other, really. So some people were into the trading side of things, as perhaps you are. So we had people who are into looking at the charts and working out chart patterns, doing technical analysis, that kind of thing. We have other people who are into imagining what you can use blockchains for or cryptos. So things like NFTs, tokenization, traceability of products, all this kind of thing. Well, we've been through this kind of like wave a few times now of people coming into the space and going, "Oh yeah, we can use it for this, we can use it for this," and I'm at the point now that every time I hear someone say, "Oh yeah, I've got this really great idea,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's like, okay. Is it
yeah.
is it real estate on the blockchain by any chance? Oh
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Or, is it that I'm going to tokenize something?
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Like literally, just kind of, um, yeah. As you say there, Gary. It's been so interesting how the space has developed, but also it's kind of now coming to that point where ideas are being sort of rehashed that it's almost like, oh look, this is incredible, and it's exactly as Gary said. It's like, yeah, yeah, no, they were talking about that
Ah,
4 years ago. So it's kind of, yeah, it is fascinating, and for me, so I mean, my interest was literally from a trading point of view, but also just kind of like, okay, so what is this stuff? And I could work out the sort of a little bit of the technicality of it, but actually, I found it absolutely fascinating in terms of the idea of decentralization and how that would change things. And if I'm honest, I really thought that actually, maybe 8, 9, 10 years post, that actually we would be in a world where, I don't know, maybe less banks or more kind of stable coins and stuff like that. And that hasn't seemed to happen yet.
Mm.
You know, so but like with so many things with futurology and tech, you know, it's like AI. Who knows where that's going to go compared to you know where it is now, and how that kind of financial world will all sort of mix together. So I find it really really interesting, and I just think the concept of particularly in security as well of the idea of blockchain and not having to have a central place to store my money or my passwords or whatever it is. That's really attractive, and also really attractive from a globalization point of view as well, actually. But yeah, it's just going to be interesting sort of how things develop, but also for me, I've been interested in what hasn't happened just as
Mhm.
much as what has happened, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think if either of you are familiar with a technology company called Gartner, who do a lot of research reports around technologies, and they've got what's called the Gartner hype cycle, which is where they talk about how new technologies come in, and you initially get this early adopter type thing, few companies or people trying it. Then you get this kind of like what they call a peak of inflated expectations, which is where everyone's piling into something. I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is the next big thing. Then they get what's called a trough of disillusionment, which is where the hype doesn't quite hit the capabilities and it all goes downhill, and people and companies realize it's not as good as they claim. And then Gartner reckon the fourth phase is what's called the plateau, or is it the plateau of enlightenment? It is, which is the point at which companies do actually start using this stuff properly. And I've seen various blockchain projects and various crypto projects go through all of that, and I've seen it with Bitcoin, where Bitcoin it was the whole, oh, it's a decentralized peer-to-peer electronic payments system, and everyone was getting into it for a while. And I saw it price-wise in 2017 when it leapt up to, I think it was $11,000 or $21,000. Can't remember, but I remember it leapt up. I think it went to $21,000, and then it crashed and it collapsed away, and then it went up again. And a few years later, it hit $69,000, and then it crashed. And then not so long ago, it hit, what was it, $115,000, and it's dropped down again. So I've seen the waves of enthusiasm reflected in prices several times. And then I've seen the associated technology changes where everyone's saying, oh, yeah, we're going to have fractional ownership of properties, fractional ownership of high value goods. So, like motor cars, wine, diamonds, all this kind of stuff. And then someone came up with this idea of the metaverse. And that's where Elena's just joined us, and beautifully timed, because the metaverse again seems to time with the next wave of hype around blockchain. So Elena, just to bring you up to speed, we're just talking about how some of us have actually been through the hype cycle of blockchain and crypto a few times, as each wave brings something new, whether it's NFTs or tokens or whatever. And the metaverse was definitely one of them for a while. And again, it all seems to have gone a little bit quiet of late. I'm not hearing that much in the way of development going on. I don't know. I mean, you're the person at the leading edge of this. So, are we missing anything? Is anything actually happening in the metaverse world? And welcome back, by the way.
Okay. Hi. Thank you so much. Uh, at this stage, I can only say that it's been summertime. I've been traveling a little bit, visiting family, and receiving guests, and so I'm back, and I would really, really be happy to learn what's been happening from you all.
Okay. Well, I think the thing that's been happening is exactly what you just described. It's been holiday season. It's all gone rather quiet.
Yes.
There have been some changes in the States with continued regulation, legislation, this kind of stuff. And probably the big stuff that's happened is that there's been a number of US legislative changes to make the country more crypto friendly, which hopefully has a benefit for people who are looking to get into crypto, that kind of thing. And also the US government, I think pretty much across all the states, has effectively vetoed the idea of a central bank digital currency. So it's kind of curious that, you know, a lot of countries were looking at introducing a central bank digital currency and using that as a new form of digital cash for their country. And in the US, they've actually kind of put in place legislation that will prevent it. But they've put in place legislation that supports stable coins. So stable coins are probably the thing that through the summer have got a lot of attention. So things like Tether, which is USDT, which is pegged against the dollar, Circle's USDC, which is pegged against the dollar, and various other things which are generally pegged against the dollar. So I think the main excitement is around US legislation and acceptance of stable coins. The other thing in the UK, so I know not everyone's from the UK, it was interesting that the UK FCA has announced something around relaxing the regulations around crypto, which sounds good, sounds really exciting. And what it basically is for now, if I understand correctly, it's around allowing crypto derivatives to be sold to the public. So these are things like ETFs and ETNs. So these are things that rather than you buying crypto directly, you buy something that represents crypto in some way. And in the UK, they were actually banned by the FCA a few years ago, and now they're unbanning them. So that's probably the main things that from my perspective, have happened. And of course, Bitcoin going up to, is it $114,000 it hits recently, I think. I don't know, Darius, I'm guessing you follow these things pretty closely.
Yeah,
have I
quite
missed
closely.
anything else that's been exciting and happening in the market?
So currently, so I live in Germany, and also the government, it's not quite public, but they also had an argument like, should we introduce our own currency? Because America also tried to introduce their own currency. But Germany is often like, how should I describe? Over enthusiastic, and so they're like, oh, we can do the same as America always. Like in the next year, most of the time it takes more than 4 or 5 or 10 years, but they're like, we should introduce our own cryptocurrency on Ethereum. So could be possible, but I don't think that's they're just like they're just in the starting phase, and I think most of the people are not quite informed, like only heard what Bitcoin is in general, and think, oh, we can do the same as America, but have no clue about all the details.
I guess it's interesting as well that different regulators tend to have very similar perspectives. So I know that in Germany, around the banking side of things, you've got BaFin, which is the equivalent of the UK Financial Conduct Authority. But I know also that there have been conversations about introducing a digital currency, which I found fascinating. I spoke to some central bankers in another European country a while ago. And I was intrigued that they were exploring introducing a crypto-based digital currency. I said, yeah, but you've got the euro. So you're all tied into the euro around Europe. And they said, we are currently. I was like, okay, that was interesting. So, because this is the whole thing about, Germany, France, and Belgium and that, because you're all using the euro, to then introduce a digital national currency, it's kind of like, well, where does that leave the euro? And where does that leave the EU and everything? So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Well, I found it fascinating that clearly central banks are exploring this, and you look at so BIS, which is based kind of primarily in Switzerland, I guess, but has got German origins. The Bank of International Settlements is like the banker's bank. It's used for like the interbank settlements and all this kind of thing. And they're certainly digitizing things and talking about crypto type capabilities. But I don't think they would necessarily want a cryptocurrency as such. Not if it was like something like Ethereum, as you suggest, because then they wouldn't be able to control it, I suppose. So, well, who knows? All these things are open for discussion, I suppose.
So in general, I guess like because my group often also talks like about charting and also the repetition of the trend, like you already mentioned. And if you just get on the technical side, like the hype would probably end in December, and on November it's the biggest input, it's the biggest inflow of people and money.
Okay.
That would be the technical side when you want to predict something. And
So that's interesting because we've had some conversations about this kind of thing in the past in the group, and I find charting fascinating because in crypto, what you're doing is you're using it to predict the behavior of the market, not the same as when you're doing stocks and shares, where you're using it to predict the behavior of the companies, and they've got physical products and this kind of thing behind them. So crypto is kind of quite nice in that respect because all you're doing is you're using it to figure out what other people are thinking.
especially with the effect of halving, that's quite
Yep.
the repetition. So
Yeah. But that's the interesting thing as well, that it has within it certain predictability. And as you say, the crypto halving every few years or whatever used to have an effect. So if you take a look at how it used to be that for a while after the mining reward was halved, then it would affect the crypto price of certainly Bitcoin a little while later. And I'm seeing that happen less and less with each halving, which is one thing. The other thing as well, I've argued for a while, and generally people have agreed on this, the entire markets are changing as well. So the crypto market from when James and I, for example, I mean, I've been into this since what, 2014, 2015, so over 10 years. The marketplace then was mainly evangelists, enthusiasts, and technical people. Then in 2017, 2018, there was a lot of additional money came in as people got into ICOs, as they were called. So these were like traditional investors beginning to get a taste of crypto. Now we've got it with hedge funds, banks, everything piling into this space. So it's now become a totally different market from what it was 4 years ago. So I'm not sure how charting longer term kind of works. But I don't know. But I know people who make money out of selling algorithms to track this. So there's something in it. Yeah. So you've got a group as well, and Darius, you say, are they based around Germany or?
yeah, all in Germany.
Mhm.
We're like more financial group and more investing. So
Okay.
I came from Tesla. I also started that my first investment 5 years ago
Okay.
and switched to crypto. So
And then Tesla was into crypto anyway.
yeah, that was a great
Mm.
transition. So yeah, that's my
Excellent. Yeah. So is there anything today that you'd particularly like to ask or share or question or anything? More than happy on that. Or if there's anything anyone else has got any questions or anything apart from, as Elena says, what's been happening over the last few weeks or months. If anyone's got any questions, then fire away.
Do you have like some fascinating or some um, cryptocurrency you are most passionate, most interested about? Because like Bitcoin is more like general, Ethereum is the base layer, and so we have a Maxi on Cardano. He always talks about Cardano. That's so funny. So to also have like some focus, some interest in specific.
So my personal interest is more around the technology layer that sits underneath it all. So I used to actually think that cryptocurrencies and crypto prices were kind of a distraction because I was keen to learn about what the capabilities, things like smart contracts, oracles, or all these kind of things, what impact they'd have. But I've always mainly stuck with taking an interest in Bitcoin and Ethereum because they're the two main ones. But increasingly, as you say, like Solana, Cardano, and that. But I'm also interested in the general trends. So, as say 2017, 2018, we had the ICO craze where people started using Ethereum to do a lot of fundraising. And that kind of also proved at the time an interesting thing that usage of a cryptocurrency doesn't necessarily affect the price of the cryptocurrency. Because everyone's saying, oh, Ethereum is going to be used with smart contracts, and now loads of companies are going to be using it for building up their own cryptocurrencies. That'll affect Ethereum's price. And it didn't. And it also proves to me as well, where some people say, oh, you should go and read the white papers of each cryptocurrency, look at the team, look at what the purpose is and everything. And the more utility the cryptocurrency has, the better the price opportunity is. Well, when you take a look at it, Bitcoin, what can you use Bitcoin for? You can use it to transfer value and store value. And not much more than that, although with I forgot what you call them now. The thing where you hold tiny little bits of Bitcoin. The name's gone away, but there's a capability where you can use a bit of Bitcoin to track and trace things and use it as a lineage thing. So Bitcoin to me has got very limited capabilities in that you can use it to trade and you can use it to store value, and that's it. Compare that to Ethereum, where you've got smart contracts, you've got a multitude of different cryptocurrencies and crypto tokens, you've got the ability to track crypto assets, you've got all sorts of amazing capabilities. But if you look at Ethereum's price, it didn't go up at the same rate that Bitcoin's price did. Sorry, the thing I was thinking about before was ordinals. So ordinals in particular on Bitcoin is where you use a little bit of the spare space on a register entry to track things. So to me, if usability and utility is the major influencer of price, then Ethereum is massively underpriced compared to Bitcoin. So that was the point at which where I realized I didn't understand this stuff enough and I stepped away from it and I stayed with the technical stuff. So that's my only thing. I do find it interesting when you look at things like Solana and Cardano and the capabilities they bring. So Solana in particular, I think with NFTs is quite interesting. But again, Ethereum is used for tracking NFTs and that. So. But do you follow particular tokens or coins then?
For me, it was an experience like Solana crashed so often, and so I don't get deep in technical stuff because for 1 year it's too hard financial analyzing and also getting into the area I love, but it's quite time consuming. Time consuming, but from my experience, like I had more like the opinion Solana crashed way too often, and meme coins had actually no fundamentals, and but people love to gamble as extreme as possible, so Solana exploded, and that was for me quite an experience to see how the market and the people react and prove you wrong. So because sometimes like even some weird projects for my experience from my side also succeed, and that's
Yeah.
weird
I,
kind of.
I've been through this, as I say, several times because I've seen the way that tokens are used differently with each wave. So, I mentioned ICOs before, I mentioned NFTs, I mentioned tokenization there. And sometimes you'll get a crypto token that gets created, which might be, as you say, like a meme token in some way, and does the classic pump and dump where it rockets up and then it collapses away. And then other times you get it where they're just hyped meme coins. So Dogecoin, I think was the good example of that. That it used to be every time Elon Musk tweeted something, Doge would go up or down or sideways or whatever. Um, and then I've seen it with a few tokens where you just thought that has got no value, no use whatsoever, and it's gone up in price. Is it simply because enough people have thought, oh well, we'll hype it, we'll pump it up and there. So
Mm.
this is where I think technical analysis is purely around figuring out the behavior of the crowd, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. This is what I found so interesting is just when I start to think, okay, yeah, right, okay, I think I might have a bit of this. I'm completely wrong, and that's what's so difficult. The only thing that I would say has been a constant factor in the last 6 7 years is there's a lot of people that say they know that don't know,
Mhm.
and that's all I've ever, because there's been so much hype, and it's sort of more so than any other thing. And then of course we went through the NFT sort of thing, and that was going to completely be the biggest thing within the art industry and everything else. And yeah, it's really interesting. I've actually changed now. I in terms of with my altcoins, I'm very much, Bitcoin at base, and then Ethereum, and potentially Cardano a little bit as well, and XRP. But it's very much that I want to know, how is this going to be able to be used? And what I find interesting is, and I think you said this, Gary, is Bitcoin, if we put it to say the internet, right? Bitcoin for me is like Netscape. It's like dial up.
Mhm.
It's kind of that modem going, all that sort of stuff. And I'm probably talking rubbish now. I'm very simplistic on this stuff. Um, but Ethereum, I was like, okay, well that does something. Right, I
Mm.
get that. Okay, yeah, I can get the idea of smart contracts, and yeah, and we don't have to have a middleman, and that means, and if that doesn't work, and if that handshake doesn't work, then that's gonna, yeah. So I can get all that. And what I find so interesting is that it's the idea of, we've got this store of value, which I guess like gold, okay, which is in Bitcoin, but the stuff that we can actually use doesn't meet the same level as the stuff that's store of value, which we
Mhm.
can't use. And that's something that I've always found fascinating, really. And don't get me started on stuff like Doge. I just like, why? I mean, not in a million years would I put any money into that whatsoever. Even if it made me a fortune, because it's an absolute gamble.
Yeah. The worst I heard as well was at one point I went to an event where it was an investor meeting, and
Hmm.
by investor meeting, I mean it was actually a group of young tech people who thought they could make loads of money,
Right.
and they were talking about spinning up a token, and they were talking about how they'd pump it all up and they'd all put into it, and then they'd exit out of it early. And I said, is that not kind of like illegal?
Yes.
And they said, yeah, bro, as long as we can get in early and get out early, we'll make a load of money. And it's like, this probably isn't the kind of meeting I want to be at. Because some people were of that attitude. And even another one I went to, which was that they were looking at investing in a token that was obviously going to be very dodgy. I said, this token looks seriously dodgy. You look at the team behind it, and they're all fake. You look at the cryptonomics and the tokenomics, and it looks totally fake. And again, they said, yeah, but we reckon it's going to go up 10x. So if we can get in, we can make 5x. We get out, we're still ahead. It's like, no. So, I mean, Darius, for you and for your group, do you look at things like what the purpose of the token or the coin is? Do you look at the team, or do you just look at what the prices are doing?
So currently it's more like how the big investors are funding the project, because whenever quite big companies fund some project, that a lot of information is behind it, and in the current trend, the chance that these companies go up in value more than some other is higher, because it's like some proof of revenue, and revenue is most of the biggest data fact. Like
Okay.
the more
But
revenue, the bigger the market cap.
but I guess that means you're basically using another organization to do your research for you. It's the kind of thing that if BlackRock have put into this, then it's probably a good investment type thing. Even though you don't know why they've put into it, or if they've got any particular motivations or anything. You're just assuming that they've done the due diligence and they've done the research. So if a big investor's going into it, then you're assuming that that's good enough type thing.
For a small position, yeah, most of.
Yeah.
So it's
And,
not big, but like more play money, not the big money.
And I guess as well, if there's enough other investors who've got the same attitude, then that's going to work, isn't it?
Because like it's more like a tide. When currently, like for when you use technical analysis, it's more like Bitcoin could reach 150,000 up to December, and when it rises, everything else, and also Ethereum, the whole market cap gonna rise because the interest is rising. It's like a flood. Everything pumps, and after it dumps, so that's the game. And but some of them are left behind, and it's like investing in random stuff, but it's reducing the probability to be wrong. That's only the game in it. So
okay,
because
so again, you're effectively looking at what the people in the markets are doing as a reflection. Yeah, okay, because it's interesting, because that then makes you susceptible to other people in the market. So like the whales, who know that this is the behavior of a smaller investor, and so might do something to prime the market in some way. I don't know if that's something you can protect yourself against in any way, because I see that sometimes where you see markets spike suddenly, and it's because a whale's put some money in order to spook everybody, and everyone else piles in, and then the whale pulls out and that. So it's
currently it's like currently, because it's going down, but the trend forecasts that it's gonna be up to November, December, and all like it's pronounced like the weekends. So the investor with weekends who sell, because like the big investor need a lot of liquidity. Liquidity is market capitalization and funding, and not funding, like money. And when they want to buy something in huge amount of volume, they need a lot of cash. And so you can also, like, I could also show you some website where you actually can see the current valuation, where a lot of people put their money on stop losses and stop profits. And it's like Pac-Man, and the bigger the volume, the faster we go to the area because the big institutions need that money on Bitcoin and
But,
the rest
but,
move it.
presumably the big exchanges don't publish the stop losses that the customers have put in place, or do they?
They do. They do
They
everything.
they
They need
do.
to. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I can show you, but wait, I can show the
Well,
website.
if you tell me the website, be interested in
Yeah,
pulling
of
that
course,
up.
no.
Yeah.
I have hundreds of websites, so um,
If you
but
pop it
it needs
into
some
if you
time.
pop it into the chats, that's
Yeah,
probably the
yeah,
easiest
of
way.
course,
So yeah.
but I need probably some time because it's so many.
Okay, not to worry, or maybe you can share it some other time because it's always interesting to see what people use for their information sources and what they can
Yeah,
find out.
uh,
Um,
all the different websites on one page. It's more like that's more valuable, and the other it's more like that is valuable. Uh,
okay. Well, so while you're digging that out, I'll say hello to JT who's just joined us. Hey there, JT.
Hi guys.
Hey, we're just talking about the market in general at the moment and discussing if there's been anything of interest that's been happening for the last few weeks. But it's been apart from the US regulations and the Genius Act and the banning of effectively central bank digital currencies in the US and the support of stable coins in the US. Doesn't seem to have been that much more happening. But then you
There
always come up
was,
with
there
some
was.
interesting. Go on. What was it then? What did I miss? Oh, there was the Ripple decision, wasn't there? XRP. That was the other big thing, I guess.
Yeah, it was. And there was also the Trump Media Group announced. I think it was the Trump Media Group that announced a 4.6 billion investment on the crypto.com.
Okay.
So on the token, which is a CRO token, which went like from 14 cents in 3 days, or less than 3 days, I think it went from 14 cents to about 41 cents. And it's kind of hovering around, I think, 30 cents now, 29 or 30 cents. So that was quite big, actually, you know. I remember I
Okay.
was looking in July, that CRO token was like 8 cents, you know, and I thought at the time, maybe this is a good time to buy it, you know, and I never did. So, um, yeah, that was one of the things. The other one, there was something else going on. God, what was it? Ah, yeah, there was announced that the linear blockchain is going to launch. I think it's going to launch the token this next week.
Okay.
So Linear belongs to the same organization that owns MetaMask, yeah, which is Consensus. So it's a layer two
Okay.
blockchain on Ethereum, and they announced they're going to launch the token next week.
Okay.
And I read
Interesting.
somewhere it's going to go like the the valuation is going to be quite high. You know, I think it was anything between 1.5 and 2 billion, whatever. And I'm
Okay.
like,
Maybe we'll come
crazy.
back to that. We'll come back to that in a minute then. As Darius was just sharing this website that he uses. What one was coinmarket.cap, which is one I use quite a lot as well. But is this just general investor profile, Darius, in terms of
yeah.
raises against?
So the other one is the other one is fundraising, where you can
Okay.
also see the data, um, like if the like if the investment, if the volume goes up, and also try to find like the the other one we talked about, but some links I often use. So uh,
Okay.
I still need some time. I didn't find everything.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Because it's always interesting to see what people are looking at. Um, the other link that you shared, CoinMarketCap, I use a lot, and I always recommend it to people as well, because it's a great way of taking a look at the overall market. of what's going on. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, yeah. The thing I like about this as well is that effectively on one dashboard, you've got all the main cryptocurrencies. You can slice down to different types of tokens now. But it's also got my favorite one, which is the Fear and Greed Index, because that quite often seems to have more of a reflection of what's going on with the market, of how fearful the market is and how greedy the market is. And it's interesting, it's fairly neutral at the moment. But yeah, the other one is, well, I noticed earlier on, was it Pole was going up really well. There's a token called Form, and Form, I noticed the other day, seemed to suddenly plummet, which data's loading a bit slowly on this. But yeah, the coin market cap certainly definitely one to take a look at. Yeah, we take a look at this one. This is one of these classic ones where it's been fairly stable, growing a little bit. Then you've suddenly seen it spiked up a few days ago, and then all of a sudden, total collapse. So, interesting stuff.
Also, like the coin glass is like the Pigman version there, which I uploaded also. That's the liquidation, like how many people invest in all the.
Okay.
You need
I'll
to
just
play around a little bit on time frames, and there are also some better versions, but most of the time you need to pay money for it. That's a free and easy access one, and like you can see there are 24 hours right at the. You can also like use 1 week, and all here you see like the liquidations, how many options are currently put in place, and we liquidated. So the time frames, whenever the line stops, the liquidation, the market consumed the liquidation. And yeah, it's a profit and stops, the short and longs. So
I was going to say, and that's where you get where they meet in the middle is where the current price is, I guess.
yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, and you also see like one currently the biggest one is 140,000. So the chance that it's going to move up, it's quite high again. So
okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. One to watch out for if it does go up.
Yeah.
Suddenly rockets up.
In general, it's more like September had a quite steep phase where a lot of people sold. That's also another website, but yeah, it's hard to predict. So
yeah.
And also,
well, if it was easy, we'd all be very, very rich.
yeah.
Which kind of ties in with I'm sure James will have heard this before now. My belief about who you actually listen to about investing, and if they don't own at least their own Caribbean island from crypto trading, then they're probably just lucky at the moment and doing quite well.
It's so true. Like as I said, the one thing that's been proven accurate every time is that nobody knows. Nobody.
Well, and whenever you know something, you wouldn't pronounce it, because whenever like the hedge fund says something, they do actually the same, because why should they? They need to profit off.
Absolutely, Darius. You're spot on there, mate.
Yeah.
only the people that manipulate the market know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they have enough liquidity to take the longs out and to take the shorts out, So that's called market makers, right?
Well, there's another word for it, market something, but yeah, on the basis of
No. It's legal, absolutely legal. If you have enough currency to buy whatever assets, you can buy as much as you want. Yeah, it's very simple, and you can short along the market as well while you're doing it. Nothing prevents you from doing that. So there's quite a few billion, waiting at 123K Bitcoin. So quite a lot, actually, because the shorts at the moment are insane. Everybody's shorting. So let's see where the market makers will take Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Liquidate everything.
Yeah, if we get was it GameStop? Effectively, people are playing the market, and eventually people get burned. It's a matter of who gets burned. So it's all fascinating stuff, definitely. So again, thanks for sharing that. So CoinGlass.com and CryptoRank.io are the ones that I've not seen before on that. CoinMarketCap.com is always my go-to one for taking a look at prices, markets, and that.
I can actually tell you exactly at the moment. No, actually, it was last night at around 9-10 o'clock. There was about 2 billion in shorts that will be liquidated at 115K. Yeah, and 5.7 billion at 123K. That's a lot of money. So there's about $7.7 billion between the price today and 123K.
Okay.
That's quite amazing, so you can take it as you want. I mean, it could continue to go down the price, obviously, but the way it is at the moment, there's a lot of shorts,
Like the cycle you talked about. Also, I don't have that's an so that's only a picture. I cannot upload a picture. That's a repetition of the cycle. I also uploaded.
Yeah, it's because it's interesting that you take a look at this. So the greens are the buys, the reds are the sells, and you look at how it suddenly stacks up. And as you say, there's this big rise. I'm not actually sure what rate that equates to. Yeah, there's some big jumps there, definitely. That if these don't get fulfilled. Okay, interesting.
So I'm going to send you an image. Okay.
Okay.
And then I'll send you in WhatsApp, and then you decide if you want to put it there or not, which is super interesting.
Okay.
Hold on.
Darius, that link you sent doesn't show the image.
Okay, wait, I try to find something else.
That's worry. Yeah.
No, that's also.
This is it.
Yeah.
Now I'm having to open all sorts of other apps. So
No, don't do it.
Hey, there we go.
Try this.
And I'll show the image that JT was just showing, and then you can explain what this was. Everyone see that? The Binance BTC USDT liquidation map.
Now check really about 5 billion. That tells you exactly at what point and how much there is. Yeah.
Certainly a lot of stuff out there, isn't there?
Gosh, do you remember one time we were talking here about, and I said to people, at the moment, anyone that shorts or longs has a lot more chance going to a casino and play, black or red, or red or black. It's as simple as that, The bots will liquidate you, You're just luck. You're just luck. You're lucky if you don't get liquidated, and if you're lucky if you actually win something,
Yeah, it's all a gamble, as they say.
It is really. I mean, at the moment, all of that is just gambling.
Yeah. So look, we've got 10 minutes left before we finish off for the day. I don't know if anyone's got any other news or anything that they'd like to share. What else is going on in the markets or any other crypto news? No, it's all gone quiet.
So do you also got in mining? Like I also invest like in mining, because whenever it was public and now it's closed. Now it's for paid. So I could show you, but it's I could show you the website, because you can also see like how expensive the mining cost and how expensive expensive the Bitcoin, and that's like the trend which increased the value of Bitcoin on my perspective the most, because like the cost increased and also the price increased. So
Yeah,
that's
so
my own.
years ago, I did actually look at doing some mining just on a laptop of some cryptos. So generally, you couldn't really do that with Bitcoin, but you could do it with some of the smaller cryptocurrencies. So I did a little bit of that. And I know some people who did actually have, at the time, they were Antminer S6s, I think. So that they were actually mining themselves, and they had quite a useful bit of software that looked at what the relative returns were on all of the different cryptos. And so they could actually switch between mining Bitcoin, Ethereum, BCH, whatever else. And that they could actually figure out which cryptocurrencies were worth mining when you worked out what the electrical cost was. And then, as you say, it's kind of all gone down to the mining pools and this kind of thing these days. So I think there was a phase where people got into mining contracts, where you get into a contract that gave you a share of the mining rewards. But there were a lot of scams with that. I saw a number of people who were, oh yeah, you can gain 3% per day by joining this mining pool or this mining contract or whatever, and they'd show you, like on their mobile phone, something that basically showed that your investment was going up each day. And in actual fact, it was just a dummy website they'd spun up, and it just had a nice little graph that made it look like money was going up. And whenever people then tried to exit, and I had this several times with this group, where we'd get someone who'd come along and they'd say, "Hi, I'm new. I'm learning about this. I've joined this crypto mining pool, but they keep telling me at the moment that I need to keep putting money in, and they won't let me take the money out. What do I do?" And it's like, well, what you do is you accept that you've been ripped off and stop putting any more money in. So I've always been suspicious of anything that looks too good to be true. Probably is. And that was certainly true with a lot of the mining contracts and that. So I tend to stay away from that stuff.
Yeah,
So
more like I currently invest like, but it's more uh, uh, um, like multiplying the risk. So currently in Bitcoin mining companies also listed on the stock exchange. That's
yeah,
where I currently, but it's
and,
more
and
like yeah,
and that's the thing, that at least you're then investing in shares in a company that's got the assets and
yeah.
that kind of thing. So at least you can do real due diligence. There is regulatory controls and all this kind of thing. I think that's definitely a way of getting exposure to those things. And I guess that's why people have started doing things like buying shares in strategy. So strategy used to be called MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor, the head of that, they've got a big exposure to crypto. And so if you've got shares in strategy, that gives you an exposure to crypto, I guess, but less so on the mining side. But yeah, the mining, it wasn't there a stage where the New York actually had a licensing scheme or something, where they were licensing crypto mining pools, but I think it was so difficult to get into that I think only one company did it in the end. So that didn't kind of work out.
So currently in America, there are quite a lot of big companies like Riot, Hive, and a lot of Mara investment and so. So yeah, that's where my interest currently is, because it's more like I also want to learn in analyzing the business side, like the business sheet, how profit margins work and how investing works and everything.
Okay.
So that's where, so most of the time I'm currently in Bitcoin understanding Bitcoin. I also like it feels more like every currency is endless, like for understanding. Even for
Mm.
Bitcoin, sometimes I feel like now I understand the value and also the technical side, and sometimes I feel like okay, I don't get it at all. Like,
I,
and
I, I went through a similar thing there. I felt that learning about crypto is a bit like learning about meteorology. So weather forecasting, and I happen to be quite into weather forecasting and prediction and that. And the thing I learned about meteorology is the more I learned about the complexity of it, the more I realized how little I understood it. And crypto is the same.
yeah,
Crypto, you think you understand it, and then someone says, "Oh, okay. So explain to me how consensus algorithm in Bitcoin works," and that's relatively simple, and you can explain the mining and that, and then you go into the well, explain the levels of cryptography that are involved, and it's like, and then you start talking about SHA-256, RSA, ripened. ECDSA, all these kind of things. You go, wow, what? I didn't realize there's all those things. So yeah, there's always more and more to learn, which is what I enjoy about it. So
yeah.
okay,
Yes.
folks, we're going to have to close off. I'm afraid we've run out of time. I like to close these off on the hour. But Darius, thanks very much for coming along. I hope it was of interest. Thanks for sharing the stuff as well. That's great. JT,
Do
thanks for sharing the additional things.
you do it regularly?
Yeah, so we do this every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. UK
Uh,
time till 8 p.m. UK time, and we record it. Um, as long as no one puts anything personal in, like start saying how many Ethereum they've got or what type of wallet they've got, I will always edit that out, and we post it up on YouTube for other people to watch as well and learn from, and then maybe they join at future call. Thanks
is
for
it the same
sharing.
link
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
next time? Okay, perfect.
And it's totally open as well, so we can talk about as long as it's crypto related in some way. So some weeks we'll talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum. Some weeks we'll talk about layer two solutions, Lightning Network. Sometimes we'll talk about NFTs. Sometimes we'll talk about the metaverse. Sometimes there's things going on in there. Any other fundraisers, anything else really. So open to whatever the people want to talk about. So hopefully the people watching this afterwards will find some use as well. So maybe
Looking
see you again
forward.
next week. Have a great one, folks. Bye for now.